live in Skid Row?
I live in Skid Row.
And then did they come down here and try and pay you to vote?
Yes.
$2. That is what this whole thing boils down to. $2 to register. $2 for a signature. $2 a cigarette, a phone cord, maybe $5 if somebody negotiates. And now people on Skid Row are on camera claiming they were paid to vote in the Los Angeles mayoral election. So let me be very clear from the start. There is what is already proven in federal court, and then there's now what is being alleged on camera. However, when you put those two things next to each other, a very, very ugly picture starts to form. I mean, a woman has already pleaded guilty in a federal voter fraud case involving homeless people on Skid Row. Videos are now circulating of homeless residents claiming they were paid to vote for Karen Bass and Nithya Raman. And voter records reportedly show thousands of registrations tied to homeless shelters, to service providers, and to drop-in centers across Los Angeles. So the question is very, very simple. Are we looking at a few isolated bad actors? Or are we looking at the political machine finally getting caught using the homeless crisis as election infrastructure? Because if Los Angeles failed the homeless, funded the failure, and then found a way to politically benefit from the people trapped inside that failure, then this is far bigger than one election. This is bigger than one candidate. This is the Bassura Doctrine in real time. I'm Wolf Kage, and today we're talking about the homeless voting hustle. Let's go. Let's start with what people are saying on camera. There are videos posted online, including TikTok clips connected to the account Lane Needs Spencer Pratt. Those show homeless residents in Los Angeles, Skid Row, claiming that they were paid cash in connection with voting in the LA mayoral election. Now, notice how I'm saying that. I'm not saying that every homeless voter is fraudulent. No. I'm not saying that every ballot from Skid Row is fake. What I am saying is this. When vulnerable people on Skid Row are on camera saying they will offer money around voting, the city should not be allowed to just shrug and move on, because this is not happening in a vacuum. This is happening in a city where the homelessness crisis has become a billion-dollar political industry. I want you to listen carefully to what this man says, not to what I say, not to what a campaign says. Listen to the person on Skid Row explaining what happened to him.
They say, oh, do you want to vote for Karen or Nithya? Or they just really just tell you to vote for Karen, huh?
Yeah, it was really man. They gave you an optional choice, but they tell you who they want you to vote for.
Or they tell you who you want to vote for. So like, yo, we'll give you $2, but you got to vote for one of these people.
Well, you know, I'm a barterer, man. So I got $4.
You got what?
$4.
$4?
$4.
$4? Oh.
Yeah, I don't, you know. Since I'm voting your way, can I get a plate? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so $4, they're like, hey, you got to vote for one of these candidates, not Spencer. You do Karen or Nithya.
Yeah, well, it was that was Bass's one for me. I mean, that was one I was suggested for. I don't give a fuck.
Got it.
You know what I mean?
And you're like, yo, give me $4 and I'll do it.
Yeah, why not? Sure.
And so they do this for everybody out here?
Yeah, they come out here all the time.
How often do they come down here?
Probably like 3 times a week.
3 times a week?
Hell
To
yeah.
get the ballots?
Yep.
Wow. And so you know other people too that voted too?
Actually, anybody that's registered,
Yeah.
you know, half the motherfuckers down on parole or probation, but you know how it is. You know.
Man, it's crazy. That's you be
Where
living
life
out.
is today, man.
What happened?
Where it is down here now.
Man.
Dog eat dog.
That's the part that should make every legitimate voter in Los Angeles stop and pay attention, because he's not describing a normal campaign conversation. He's not describing someone handing him a flyer. He's describing cash. He says he was offered $2, negotiated it up, filled out a ballot, and dropped it in a ballot box. And when asked if the thing applied to Nithya Raman, he says yes. Now again, this is an on-camera testimony. That does not mean a court has proven every detail yet, but it does mean the city, it does mean the county, it does mean the campaigns and the federal investigators need to answer a very serious question. Who was out there? Who sent them? Who paid them? and how many ballots were touched by this operation. Because he also says these people were coming out around Skid Row 3 to 5 times a week. 3 to 5 times a week. Does that sound like one random person doing something sloppy? No. That sounds organized. That sounds repeated. That sounds like a deployment. And then there's another clip. A woman is asked about getting paid and voting. And the part that hits the hardest is not just the money. It's the fact that she doesn't even seem to know the full name of the candidate. Now listen to this next part, because this is where the story becomes much bigger than politics. This becomes about exploitation.
Did you vote?
Yeah.
Oh, you did for Karen Bass?
Yeah. Karen Bassett. Right.
Or
That's what his name, Bassett?
Karen Bass, yeah.
Yeah.
Or Nithya Raman?
Karen.
Karen? They told you to vote for Karen?
Yeah. They had to sign a little thing.
See, that right there is the whole moral problem. A vulnerable person is being used as a vote. Not persuaded, not educated, not engaged, used. And if somebody doesn't even know the full name of the person they're supposedly voted for, but somehow that ballot still ends up in the system, then what are we actually doing? Are we running an election? Or are we managing human desperation for political outcomes? That's the question. Because the homeless should not be treated like political raw material. They shouldn't be treated like numbers. They shouldn't be treated like ballots with legs. And the people who claim to care about them the most should be the first ones demanding answers. Now, here's where the story stops being only about viral clips. Because before these videos started spreading, federal prosecutors had already charged a woman named Brenda Lee Brown Armstrong, also known as Anika, in connection with paying people on Skid Row.
The Justice Department announcing this week Brown Armstrong has been federally charged and has agreed to plead guilty to one felony count of paying another person to register to vote, including the homeless along LA Skid Row.
We're committed to protecting the integrity of all American elections at the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. But there needs to be a commitment by people and leaders here in California.
According to her plea agreement, Brown Armstrong, for nearly 2 decades, worked as a petition circulator, being paid by coordinators to gather signatures to qualify initiatives, recalls, and referendums for California state ballots. She paid the homeless around $2 or $3 to fill out voter registration forms, instructing them to use her own former LA residence.
Armstrong, 64-year-old woman from Marina Del Rey, worked for about 20 years as a professional petition circulator. And federal prosecutors say she regularly paid people, including homeless people on Skid Row, to register to vote. See, that part is not a theory. That part is not internet speculation. That is the federal case. And Armstrong, she pleaded guilty. According to prosecutors, she was being paid by petition organizers for ballot signatures from registered voters. But if someone was not registered to vote, their signature wouldn't count. So what was the incentive? Get them registered? Pay them a few dollars? Get the signature? Move on to the next person? And that is where the machine becomes visible. Because once the political system creates a financial incentive around registrations, signatures, ballots, and mail-in voting, vulnerable people become a resource. Not citizens, not human beings, a resource. U.S. Attorney Bill Ellison said this case is not just an allegation. He called it admitted voter fraud. And this is why the Skid Row videos matter. Because now you have a proven federal case involving paid voter registrations on Skid Row, and then you have separate on-camera claims from Skid Row residents saying that they were paid in connection with voting. So any honest person should be asking this question: where does one operation end and the bigger system begin? Now watch this carefully, because this is the incentive structure in her own words.
The petitioner, Brenda Brown, hands cash money to the homeless person, not only for signing the California ballot initiative, but also as payment for them to register to vote.
Now, because you haven't registered, I need to register you so I can get paid too. I'm paying you guys, I need to get paid. Come on.
That is a federal felony. And it didn't just happen once, it happened over and over and over again. We personally witnessed and covertly filmed this happening at least 28 times over the span of our investigation, and that is just in Los Angeles. Many of the homeless have zero understanding of what it is that they're actually signing.
But what is that petition for? You know?
What is the petition for? I do not know.
The petitioners instruct the homeless to enter made-up addresses like Pinocchio Lane.
What do I put as my address? Yeah, just put you live on Pinocchio Lane. Oh, you can just take it.
Oh, good.
There it is. That's the sentence. I need to register you so I can get paid too. That's the whole game. She is paying them, but she's also getting paid. So the person on the street gets $2 or maybe $3, a cigarette, something like that. The petition circulator gets paid. The campaign or political operation gets the registration or signature. The system gets the number it needs. And the homeless person is left exactly where they were before, still on the street, still broke, still being used. And this is what Los Angeles does over and over again. It turns human suffering into a funding stream. It turns crisis into bureaucracy. And now the question is whether it has also turned homelessness into election infrastructure. Because when a woman spends 20 years inside this world and ends up pleading guilty in federal court, nobody can tell us this is impossible. Nobody can tell us this never happens. Nobody can tell us this is just a conspiracy theory. The only question now is, how big is it? Now let's talk about voter rolls, because this is where the story gets even more uncomfortable, if it ever could. A New York Post review of voting records reportedly found roughly 7,600 registered voters tied to homeless shelters, supportive housing developments, and service providers all throughout Los Angeles. Now, let me be fair. That does not automatically mean every registration is fake. Some homeless people absolutely have the right to vote. They should have the right to vote. The issue is not whether homeless people can vote. The issue is whether vulnerable people are being registered, managed, directed, harvested, or exploited through addresses controlled by the homelessness service system. That's the real question. According to reporting, one of the addresses connected to voter registrations was the St. Joseph Center in Venice. That is a homeless services drop-in center. A drop-in center means people may receive services during the day, but it's not the same thing as an overnight shelter with beds for all of those people. And yet, the reporting says 185 registered voters were tied to that address. The same organization also received a $600,000 taxpayer-funded grant connected to Nithya Raman while she chaired the City Council's Housing and Homelessness Committee. Now again, it does not prove every registration is illegal, but politically, that is a giant red flag. Because when a politician is on the ballot and organizations inside the homelessness system are tied to voter registrations, and those same organizations receive taxpayer money from the political class, the public has every right to ask, is this public service or is this political infrastructure? The report also pointed out Midnight Mission on Skid Row, which allegedly had the highest concentration of homeless voters, with about 1,160 registered voters tied to that single address, one address, over 1,000 registered voters. And again, maybe some of that has legal explanation. But do not insult the public by acting like there's nothing here to look at. Because the same city that cannot tell you where the homelessness money went somehow expects you to believe every part of this election infrastructure is perfectly clean. No. That's not how accountability works. Now put all of that next to what happened in the mayoral count. Watch how the race shifted after more ballots came in.
The race for LA mayor, Nithya Raman moving into second place, overtaking Spencer Pratt.
Well, Spencer Pratt had been in second place since election night, but that all changed with the very latest ballot drop this afternoon.
And here's a look at the new numbers. Raman gaining about 19,000 votes in today's drop, vaulting her ahead of Pratt, who only got another 9,000 today. Incumbent Mayor Karen Bass was already projected to make the general election, and her campaign has already put out a statement within minutes of the latest ballot drop attacking Raman.
She has closed a gap that was 40,000 votes just a few days ago, and she's now 3,000 votes ahead. So she has gained 43,000 votes on Spencer Pratt since Wednesday. That's 4 days ago.
This is why people are asking questions. Spencer Pratt was ahead, seemingly kind of like way ahead. Popular choice. Then later, ballot updates came in. Nithya Raman moved into second place. And because of that, she became the candidate position to face Karen Bass. Now, I'm not saying that the homeless vote caused a shift. I'm not saying that every late ballot was fraudulent, but what I am saying is this. In a city with a federal voter fraud case tied to Skid Row, in a city where people are on camera claiming that they were paid around voting, in a city where thousands of registrations are reportedly tied to homeless service addresses, and in a race where the order changes after mail-in ballot updates, we, the public, have every right to demand transparency. That is not conspiracy. That's simply citizenship. And if the system is clean, prove it. Show the chain of custody. Show how many ballots came from these addresses. Show how many were newly registered. Show how many were registered by paid circulators. Show whether any ballots were sent to addresses controlled by people other than the voter. Because if everything is legitimate, that shouldn't scare anybody. But the reason people don't trust Los Angeles politics is because every time the public asks a basic question, the machine calls them crazy. But that trick is old. We're over that. Now let's zoom out. Because this is not just about one woman. It's not about one viral video. It's not even just about one election. This is and is always about a machine. Los Angeles has been building this machine for years. Look at it this way. Step 1, create or maintain a massive homelessness crisis. The city spends billions. The county spends billions. Nonprofits get contracts. Consultants get paid. Developers get paid. Departments expand. But the crisis never gets solved. The tents stay. The sidewalks stay packed. Skid Row stays Skid Row. And that's that. Step 2, build an entire nonprofit service provider ecosystem around that crisis. These organizations become the official gatekeepers between government money and the homelessness population. They know the names. They know the locations. They know the encampments. They know who needs food. They know who needs shelter, paperwork, IDs, mail services. Help. That gives them enormous influence. Step 3, tie vulnerable people to addresses, shelters, drop-in centers, supportive housing, service providers, former addresses, mailing addresses, sometimes addresses that may not reflect where the person actually sleeps or lives. And once elections are primarily conducted by mail, addresses become power because the ballot has to go somewhere, right? Step 4, make ballot collection legal enough that people can move ballots through the system without triggering public suspicion. California allows ballot collection. That does not automatically mean fraud, but it does mean the system depends heavily on trust. And when the people involved are homeless, when they're addicted, when they're mentally ill, desperate, or simply trying to survive the day, that trust can be abused very, very easily. Step 5, use the same political class that failed to solve homelessness to benefit from the voting infrastructure created around homelessness. That is the machine. Fail the people, fund the failure, control the services, control the addresses, control the outreach, control the ballots, to call anyone who notices conspiracy theorist. That's not democracy. That's managed power. And the people being exploited are not just the house voters whose ballots get diluted. The people being exploited are also the homeless men and women being handed a couple of dollars while politicians use their suffering as a campaign asset. That is the part people need to understand. The homeless are not the villains in this story. They are the victims. They are being failed twice. First by a city that cannot get them off the street, and then by a political system that may be using their condition to protect itself. That's why this matters. This is not about hating the homeless people, no. This is about refusing to let powerful people use the homeless as shields, as statistics, as funding tools, and now, potentially ballots. Here's the thing. I don't really care which party you vote for. I don't care whether you like Karen Bass, you like Nithya, Raman, Spencer Pratt, none of them. What I care about is whether your vote counts the same as a ballot connected to someone who may not even know the candidate's full name, may not understand what they are voting for, and may have been approached by someone offering cash, cigarettes, or favors. Because if those votes are going to be treated the same, then your vote is being devalued. Los Angeles has one of the largest homeless populations in the country. These are very, very vulnerable human beings. I walk by them every day. They don't even know if they're living. They deserve real services. They deserve real housing. real recovery, real dignity. They don't deserve to be managed like political inventory. And the same political class that has promised to solve homelessness for decades and decades now has to answer a very uncomfortable question. Did you fail to solve homelessness, or did the crisis become too useful to solve? Because if the homeless crisis can generate contracts, grants, media sympathy, nonprofit money, political cover, and possibly votes, then maybe the system is not broken. Maybe it's working exactly as it was designed to work. Federal prosecutors already have one guilty plea. More investigations have been reported. The videos are out. The voter roll questions are out. And the mayoral race is under a microscope. So pay attention, because this is not over. I'm Wolf Kage. This is Wolf Kage, Los Angeles. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And until the next time, peace.